Okay, we are going to look at some different features of what a state is, the origins of a state, what you have to have in order to be a state. So there are four theories of how a state originated. And we're going to look at those real quick. The first one is the evolutionary theory. And in the evolutionary theory, I've got a picture down here of an Indian tribe. There are some who say, or some states that came to be because you have a small family who attaches itself to a piece of ground. And then throughout this process of where more families start to attach themselves to the same ground, you have these populations that form, and then you have someone of one of these families becomes the head. They create a government. And so eventually, once again, when all of these families settle in one particular territory, they lay claim to it, and then they become a sovereign state. So this is something that you see with all of these Indian tribes, or more primitive type things, where it just evolves out of necessity because you have more and more people who settle on a particular piece of ground. Force theory, here I have a picture of Adolf Hitler. And when you think of Nazi Germany and how it came to be, you had an individual, Adolf Hitler, who took control of this territory and forced everyone to submit through force. The state becomes sovereign, and those in control form that particular government, and you don't have a choice. You have been forced into that, as opposed to evolution, where it just kind of happens through a process because you have more and more people, and you need some sort of government to take care of the different things that are going on. This is the third origin or theory of origin of the state, is this idea of a divine right theory. And I've put a picture of Queen Elizabeth II, who is currently the Queen of England. And she truly believes that God created the state, God made the state sovereign, and the government is made up of those chosen by God to rule this certain territory. And then the population must obey the ruler. A lot of people would like to see Queen Elizabeth II step down, and whether that's Prince Charles or Prince William who takes over her position, no one's really sure how that's going to work out. But she really refuses to step down because she feels God put her in that position, and she should not resign from it. The social contract theory is the one we're going to spend more time with, and eventually I'm going to have a whole entire video just over the social contract theory. This is the one that we embrace here in the United States. And so what I have here at the bottom is a copy of our Constitution, which is a social contract. It is the contract between the people here and our government. And a contract is literally between two groups of people, and both of them have to give up something, and we'll go over that in the later video. But the social contract theory just says that a population in this particular territory is willing to give up some of their power to the government to promote the well-being of everyone. And so then we create this sovereign state. Obviously, we can't all do exactly what we want. We talk about all the freedoms that we have here in the United States, but there still are a lot of things that we cannot do. And we have agreed, if we're going to live here in this society, to give up some things in order for the betterment of everyone. And we'll talk about that later. Features of a state. There are four things you have to have in order to be a state. And the first one is population. You just have to have a body of people. Then you have to have territory that has defined spaces. So when you look at the state of Indiana and when you look at the United States, you can find them on a map, and most of us hopefully know what these things look like. Sovereignty, this one here is critical, so make sure that you star this or highlight this, underline this. Make sure you understand that sovereignty really is the key here to what makes a state a state. Sovereignty means that you have the power to make and enforce laws without having to check with any higher authority. You are the final authority within your borders. And then you have to have government in order to organize all of this. So the four things you have to have in order to be a state is population, territory, sovereignty, and government. And once again, sovereignty is the key here. So make sure that you highlight that, you understand that, because we're going to use that to differentiate between, is Indiana a state, and is the United States a state? So we'll look at that here in a minute. There are 4 roles of government. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. The 4 roles of the government, the first one is to protect the country, the second one is to keep order, third one is to help citizens, and then the fourth one is to make laws. And I have a series of things here that we're just going to quickly go through and put with where they go. Obviously, Army, protecting the country. Kids under 14 can't work. We have laws in the United States that protect our children, so that goes under making laws. We have sheriffs to keep order. People have freedom of speech. That's in the Constitution, specifically the First Amendment to the Constitution, so that is law. Highway patrol, we have patrolmen on the highways to make sure we keep order. Veterans Hospital, these are things that we have provided to help our citizens. Navy to protect the country. Voting age is 18, that's the 26th Amendment, so it is law. Air Force, schools, once again, to help our citizens. We want to have an educated citizenry. Keeping order is part of the FBI. Marines, we're going to protect the country. Retirement benefits, we have things put in place to help citizens that retire. Jobs must pay minimum wage. Once again, that is law. And then we've created a highway system to help citizens get from one state to another. We have police who are there to keep order. So all of those things, make sure that you can identify those. And so let's go back and talk about what is a state. Is that a state? Is the United States just one big state? And I want you to notice, and please get this down in your notes, that when we're talking about the United States, when we write the word state, it is lowercase. So you're going to use a small s or a lowercase s when we're talking about the United States. So is the United States a state? Does it have population? Yes, it does. Does it have territory? Yes, we can look at for the United States on a map. Does it have sovereignty? The United States is sovereign. We have absolute authority within our borders. No one can tell us what to do. There's nothing higher than the United States. Does it have government? Obviously, we do have a government. And so what about states like Connecticut, Georgia, Indiana would be one of these questions. Is that a state? Do we have population? We absolutely do. Do we have territory? We have territory. Are we sovereign? No. Indiana is not sovereign. The 50 states are not sovereign. So please get this down in your notes because it is critical that you understand a state, and we're talking lowercase, and it's counterintuitive to what you would think it would be. The lowercase s state would be the one that has the 4 qualifications. It would be the United States. It would be Canada. It would be Mexico. It would be Great Britain and France and Germany. When we look in our government to the person who is responsible for relations with these other countries, they're called Secretary of State. So the person that is responsible for dealing with foreign countries, and that's what we're talking about here when we're talking about a state, is with the lowercase s. So make sure you understand it has all these qualifications. Indiana is not sovereign. So when we talk about these types of states, or when I write this out, I'm going to use a capital S, an uppercase S, to identify that. And then obviously we do, as in individual states, have government. So sovereignty is key. If there is a higher authority over you, you are not a state by definition of this course. The 50 states can't make laws that go against the United States. They have a higher authority above them, which we just went over. So let's go over this mini quiz. A state can't have less than 30,000 people. That is definitely false. Monaco is an example and has only 27,000 people that live there. If you look at actually territory size also, Vatican City is the smallest state that exists. Vatican City is actually within Rome, which is actually within Italy. So population doesn't matter, size doesn't matter. The boundaries of a territory can change. That's absolutely true. And there are three ways the boundaries can change. You can have wars, and we've seen that in past history, where you have situations where someone wins and they gain more territory. Germany would be an absolute example of this, as they went through the war, and then once again, as they started losing territory. Negotiations with other countries. You can have countries merge with other ones if you want. And purchasing land from other countries. If you look at the United States, the Louisiana Purchase, huge acquisition of territory for the United States. Sovereignty means that you have to check with someone else above you. We know that that is false. It's just the opposite. Sovereignty means there is no one above you. United States is sovereign. Indiana is not. Indiana is not a state. The United States is a state. Government only exists to keep order and provide security. That's not true. There are 4 rules: to protect the country, to make laws, to keep order, and to help citizens. The 50 states that make up the United States are not considered independent states, and that's absolutely true. Does not have all 4 of the qualifications, is not sovereign like the United States.